Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and we have something that's pretty darn cool to take a look at today. We have the very first of the newest triple feature, I guess you could say, of Noble Collection Jurassic Park releases. They've not long ago released a trifecta of Jurassic Park inspired models, and you can see the one we are taking a look at today is the Dilophosaurus. There is also a Velociraptor set as well as a T-Rex set. Both of those will be up for review here on the channel very soon, but the one that I felt like looked the best was the Dilophosaurus, so that's the one that I figured we would take a look at first. And I honestly can say I am definitely impressed with this. The overall presentation is actually really quite nice, and definitely a pretty fun random model from Noble Collection, which I really did not expect them to make something like this. They have actually made some Jurassic Park stuff in the past, and the glare is absolutely destroying your ability to probably see this right now, but they have actually made Jurassic Park stuff in the past, as they were responsible for the Jurassic Park chess set, which I actually have been meaning to get up on the channel and do kind of like an unboxing of that set. If you guys would be interested in checking that out, an unboxing of the chess set for the Noble Collection Jurassic Park version, definitely let me know in the comment section, and I will do just that, because there were some really cool kind of game pieces, and since I just bought it to collect it, I've actually never even really opened it. It's just been sitting in the box the whole time, so it'll give me an opportunity to actually, check it all out as well. But as far as basically what we have, like an outer shell here, you can see we have a really nice Jurassic Park logo down at the bottom, but you can also see that we have kind of like a nice glass case for our Dilophosaurus. It states the title of the species right there. And then if you take a look up here at the top, you can see a beautiful Jurassic Park logo right there, as well as, again, like this really cool kind of almost like a paddock type of a look to this. And there's like all kinds of cracks and stuff and damage done to it, which also pretty much screams Jurassic Park. If you take a look here at the back, you can also see the background to the kind of waterfall-like display that is back here in the back. If we pull this off very carefully, because I don't want to damage it, there we go. You can now see that back there you have kind of like a waterfall look, which actually not just a waterfall look, it's literally the area in Jurassic Park where Dennis Nedry meets his demise thanks to the Dilophosaurus. So that is a really cool backdrop to have for this. I really like the idea of using that back there. Definitely very fun on the part of the Noble Collection. But then you can pull your Dilophosaurus out, and now he's just sitting here without that backdrop and also looks cool. On top of that, they also have this in there as well, and you can see this as well as sporting a very, very bad glare. But you can see there's like vegetation and stuff all over the place. Then once you get here to the back, you can really see a good idea of the model, and then basically telling you everything that's included, as well as, again, the Noble Collection logo up there. And then same deal over here once we get to the other side. Again, Jurassic Park logo and all of that fun stuff. So that's just a really cool kind of like an outer case that it comes in. And then you have the actual glass case as well over here, this thing. And then you have, again, the Dilophosaurus itself. So for the $35 price tag, and if you actually order all three of them, you get the items shipped to you with free shipping. I think is a pretty darn good deal. You get like a decent amount of stuff and a really nice high quality appearance to your models overall. So let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at this Dilophosaurus right now. So one thing that is also cool about this set is you can actually detach the Dilophosaurus from the base itself. It does come with a little bit of a stand right here, but regardless, you can take the Dilophosaurus off entirely. Once you actually start to take a look at the dinosaur, you can see as far as accuracy goes, I feel like they definitely nailed it. Like, it really looks like the Jurassic Park Dilophosaurus. And they've overall, on top of the sculpt, when it comes to capturing accuracy, I feel like they did a pretty good job on the coloration. Now, I will say it's not perfect, as specifically the frill area of the Dilophosaurus, I feel like just doesn't look exactly as you would see on the Jurassic Park version. Like, there's yellows and stuff included on the JP version. We don't really see that here on this Noble Collection version. But even when you are not taking that into consideration, I still feel like it looks really good. And for the most part, again, they did a pretty good job of capturing what the Jurassic Park Dilophosaurus looks like, just not perfectly. But as far as the sculpt goes, when it comes to the fine detail, you can see that's probably the thing that this is lacking the most, because although the overall general structure of the dinosaur and the appearance looks really good, you can see that as far as the fine detail goes, once you get nice and close, although it does have some pretty okay looking detail, it's just not basically what we're used to when it comes to dinosaur collectibles. Like, the skin texture and everything is definitely there, it's just not as vibrant as you would like it to be. And in the future, if the Noble Collection releases any more, I would love to see that improve as far as like how nice the detail actually looks on the model itself. Like, it looks pretty okay, I would say, here on the upper jaw, but then my camera would stay focused on it. But when you come to the lower jaw, like, it's really muted. You don't really see too much detail-wise or anything down there. Like, in general, in the eye socket area, you could see some detail. It's just not as nice as I would expect. But we also have to take into consideration that the Noble Collection are not dinosaur sculptors. They do not release dinosaurs all the time. This is not their everyday thing, so it's actually fairly impressive, I would say, when it comes to how nicely sculpted this is, when you think about the fact that Noble Collection doesn't really release dinosaurs usually. So there are ups and downs, I guess you could say, to the model. The detailing up there in the crest of the Dilophosaurus, though, does look pretty nice. And looking out here at the detailing of the frill as well is extremely nice. The frill, although the coloration isn't perfect, I think the sculpt of the frill might be honestly my favorite part of the entire dinosaur, because the detailing looks really good. You could see that kind of trademark style of skin texture to the frill, and there is a ton of skin wrinkles and skin creasing and stuff showing off the Dilophosaurus's frill and the movement of the frill. So that is definitely a huge plus. And although the coloration doesn't look perfect to what a Dilophosaurus looks like in Jurassic Park, I feel like the actual application of the paint looks really nice. We have quite a few different tones of color. Those red kind of streaks back and forth are actually really quite naturally applied. And there's also some random whites and stuff out here near the edges of the frill that also actually look pretty good. The mouth of the dinosaur is sculpted in an open position. You can see the tongue sticking out there of the mouth. The tongue should technically be a purple, but considering the coloration isn't perfect, I don't expect the coloration on the inside of the mouth to be perfect. Again, detail-wise, you don't really see too much going on, a little bit, but it still looks pretty good. The teeth all look quite nice as far as the sculpt goes, and the teeth are also fairly decently painted, like especially in the lower jaw. You can see that paint is actually pretty precise overall. One thing I've noticed with mine is if you look straight here in the front of the snout, if my camera again would focus on it, there's like a little mush of plastic or something, or maybe even a chip taken out of it, which is definitely a bummer because this is the one I was the most excited about, so it's a little upsetting to see that little area of damage right there. But again, at the same time, it's not a big deal. It's a very small amount. On the underside of the neck, you can see again, detail is here, but it's just not all that vibrant, and as you run down throughout the course of the underside, you can really pick up on it. I feel like the detailing here on the underside would look a little bit nicer if this kind of didn't have that glossy look to it and wasn't quite so bright, but at the same time, the scene takes place in the rain, so it would, make sense for it to be a little bit glossy. But as far as what we can see down here, we can see some nice skin wrinkles, skin folds and stuff, and there is some pretty nice, camera, don't do that, some pretty nice actual texturing, but you just don't see it quite as nicely as you probably should. You can see the hands are also nicely sculpted. We've got some black painted nails, a little bit of red there out on the hands, and you can also see that the arms are kind of held into the body in a pretty nice natural position. And then as we move back up here to the back of the neck, you can see that the actual tensing in the neck is pretty nicely sculpted out there. And yet again, you can see the rear of the frill looks really good. They've definitely sculpted out the detailing very nicely in the frill. They've also added in some extra coloration with the greens, and then kind of like spots from the greens leading out, and they've given it some nice variations of browns as well as like a dark brown wash. So they really did do a good job on the frill of the Dilophosaurus, and the dinosaur itself also sports some pretty nice greens, although I would say the tones of greens aren't, again, exactly perfect for a Jurassic Park Dilophosaurus. They do look pretty good, and they've kind of applied like a nice brownish wash to the figure, so it adds some color variation to the Dilophosaurus overall, which I also do really quite like. Again, we also have these variations of greens that are kind of outlined with a white that run the course of the body, which are fairly reminiscent to a Jurassic Park style Dilophosaurus. You can see some okay detailing as far as skin texture and stuff goes throughout the side of the dinosaur, also some muscle definition in the arm. You can also pick up on some skin wrinkles and skin folds there. kind of showing how the leg is pulling off of the body, wrinkling the skin a little bit. The rib cage appears to be present as well in the stomach region. Some nice muscle definition in the thigh of the Dilophosaurus, as well as down in the calf. You can pick out the kneecap. And the foot is kind of like obscured a little bit, I would say, because of the fact that it's stepping in the mud, but I actually do like that. I think that's something that, you would see on the Dilophosaurus in this moment in the film, and you can also see there's a little hint of red there. Some nice scoots running down the toes. The nails are painted with a black. And then the tail has a very nice curve as you lead out the length of the tail. Very, very nice curve. And you can see, again, creating kind of a dramatic pose for the Dilophosaurus. The leg on this side is stepping forward, so you do have some difference as far as the positioning of the legs goes, but the sculpting and everything looks pretty much the same. It looks really good. And one thing you're not really going to see too much of, I think, on these models is a lot of attention to really small details like skin wrinkling and folding, more so on this side, with like the legs stretching the skin off of the tail. Like, it's there, but it's not super, super vibrant, not super noticeable or anything, or like skin bunching up in the stomach region. Like, you can, again, kind of see it because the leg is pushing into the body, but it's not something that they obviously focused on. The detailing kind of looks the same over here like it did on the initial side. I think you can see the rib cage a little better over here, though. But regardless, it's definitely a really fun Dilophosaurus and pretty impressive when it comes to the Noble collection, and the fact that they, again, don't really sculpt dinosaurs or anything as far as I know very often. So even though it's not the best Dilophosaurus you're ever going to see, for a Jurassic Park Dilophosaurus in the $35 range, it's really quite nice. And then the base itself, again, you've got that nice Jurassic Park logo right there, front and center, and then you can see that we kind of have replicated the area from Jurassic Park where the water is kind of running down the hill there, that kind of waterfall, some of the vegetation and stuff that is present in that area. And again, they've done a pretty good job of making sure the water looks somewhat realistic. You can see even like some white showing up in certain areas to kind of show how the current is running down the hill and everything, showing off the movement in the water. It looks pretty good. They've done a nice job of kind of adding a little bit of a glossy look to the water as well, which definitely adds a nice fun element of realism. And then again, we have the area where the Dilophosaurus stands right there in the center. I definitely would have enjoyed seeing like a Barbasol can or something in here somewhere, just for that little fun extra, that little nod to Jurassic Park and the scene that it's replicating, but they did not do that. Regardless, it still looks pretty nice overall. The underside has the Noble Collection logo again, as well as the Universal Studios logo right there, so nothing else really going on, but definitely a pretty fun base and a really nice Dilophosaurus. One other thing that's pretty cool about the Dilophosaurus is once you pull him out, he can actually stand with just this little earthy area he has. He stands really nicely, but of course you would probably want him in here. Once you put him back in, you just push him down, and he slides into place quite nicely. I just want to make sure he's in there nice and firm, and he stays in there quite beautifully, again recreating the scene from Jurassic Park. Definitely a very fun collectible. As far as a size goes, for a width on the base, you're looking at about 4.5 inches or a little over 11 centimeters. For a height to the back here of the base, about 3.5 inches or 9 centimeters. And then for a height to the top of the Dilophosaurus, I would say right around 5 inches or closing in on 13 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Dilophosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line in comparison to our Noble Collection Dilophosaurus. And you can definitely see in comparison to these figures here that the size isn't absolutely massive, and it overall is a fairly small figure. And again, that's kind of what I expected. I didn't really expect it to be huge. I expected it actually to arrive in exactly this size. So no surprises or anything as far as that goes. But I think, again, as far as this model goes, the size is probably perfect for that kind of desktop collectible that you could maybe potentially put on like your work desk or something like that. And then for another comparison, I brought in a Mattel Dilophosaurus. And what's interesting about these two is they honestly seem like they are pretty much in the same scale as each other. Like when it comes to a Mattel Dilophosaurus, like they're almost exactly the same scale, exactly the same size. They even look similar as far as the frills go a little bit. Not exactly, but fairly similar. So if you happen to have a Mattel Dilophosaurus, it's a good figure to have as far as like a comparison goes. If you are familiar with the Mattel version, then you'll definitely be familiar with the size of the Noble Collection version. So this Noble Collection Jurassic Park Dilophosaurus is definitely a very, very cool release on their part, and honestly better than I expected it to be. Although you can look at it from the standpoint of like the details, a little muted in certain areas, and the paint job isn't quite as highly detailed or wonderful as we would like. It's not perfect to what a Jurassic Park Dilophosaurus looks like. I feel like this overall product is really impressive. For a company that, again, is really new to releasing Jurassic Park stuff, they're really doing a good job of giving us collectibles that Jurassic Park fans are really going to want to own. And this was a very cool choice on their part to create a Dilophosaurus, because the Dilophosaurus is a very iconic dinosaur when it comes to the Jurassic Park franchise. Few dinosaurs really scream Jurassic Park more than the Dilophosaurus, because it was so unbelievably popular back when that film came out, which has always been so baffling why it took so long for it to come back to the films. But again, they have gone ahead and created one of the most iconic scenes from Jurassic Park here with this collectible, and they've done a pretty good job of doing just that. There are, of course, some things that could have made it a little better, like I had stated, like a Barbasol can or a little bit better paint application, but considering this isn't meant to be a very high-end collectible or anything like that, like it's just a really cool Jurassic Park release from the Noble Collection, it's pretty much exactly as you would expect, and maybe even a little bit better. The sculpt, although slightly muted in certain areas, I still feel like looks really good, and as far as the overall appearance to the Dilophosaurus goes, it really looks, in my opinion, exactly like a Jurassic Park Dilophosaurus, so sculpt-wise, they knocked it out of the park. Again, the fine detail could have been a little better, but as far as the overall appearance to the figure, it is really, really good. The paint job as well, again, is decent. It's not perfect. It doesn't look super lifelike, but at the same time, it also does look fairly natural. Like the coloration and the paint application looks like it should be the color of the dinosaur, and doesn't really look so much like paint on a figure. Some areas do, like the kind of green running along the back of the body and stuff. That definitely looks a little bit more like paint than body color, but overall, I still feel like they've done a pretty good job of applying the color. They've added some nice washes and stuff in certain areas as well to add a nice element of realism. And the base is also quite nicely done. They've done a good job of kind of creating that water effect, giving it that glossy look and everything, and also kind of recreating the area of Jurassic Park where the Dilophosaurus is seen. And then you have that very cool case that goes over top of everything, and then also has that backdrop of that area again where Nedry meets his demise. So as a whole, even though it's not the greatest thing in the world, this is definitely a really cool set from the Noble Collection, and one that if you are a Jurassic Park fan, I definitely recommend picking up. So I will include a link in the description to where you can do that on the Noble Collection website, so make sure you check that out. Make sure you pick up this really cool Dilophosaurus, and make sure you also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.